Let's light a candle. Make it 75. Let's bake a cake. Our time has arrived. We celebrate this year, and so many before. Celebrate the people who strove for a shared vision, a common goal. Much has been achieved with one another, improving the lives of others and the life of our earth. So hello to friends far and wide. It's time for a virtual celebration. Here's a global salute with a loud cheer for the Lincoln Institute in its 75th year.
Hello. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning from wherever you are joining us this afternoon, evening, morning. My name is Katie Lincoln, and I serve as the Chair and Chief Investment Officer for the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. And this evening, I am also serving as your co-host as the kickoff celebration of 75 years of great work. I'm also getting to introduce you to my co-host, George McCarthy, the President and CEO of the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. Hi, Mac.
Hi, Katie. And hi, everyone. I'm Mac. It's a huge pleasure to join you today. We're here to mark a milestone for the Lincoln Institute, but more importantly, to enlist your help in continuing this extraordinary work for the next 25 years and beyond. It's great to see so many familiar names on the RSVP list, and we're delighted to see participation from all over the world. Medellin and Bogota, Taipei and Beijing, Cleveland and Miami, Paris and Pretoria.
Indeed.
Four corners of the globe. Welcome.
And we are live. We hope that during the broadcast, you might take a moment to share a favorite memory or comment on our social media, #Lincoln75. And we are virtual because of the pandemic, of course. But you know, I do make lemonade for a living out of lemons. And the fact of the matter is, we are such a widespread global family that we'd have to almost rent the Houston Astrodome for all of us to be together. So virtual is almost the way we'd have to go anyway.
But our celebration today is not so much about successes or achievements. It's a celebration of people. We're coming together today not only to recognize the Lincoln family and its decades of commitment to our mission, but especially to honor you, the broader Lincoln Institute family, the thousands of you who have worked and are working shoulder to shoulder with us to produce an incredible body of accomplishment over the last 75 years.
You know, Mac, my grandfather and my father believed in people. They believed in the people that undertook the work and would benefit from the work. I never had the privilege, really, of knowing my grandfather, but my father taught me to believe in respect and kindness for people, to believe in the golden rule. And the Lincoln Institute has been doing that for 75 years across this globe. And we've been doing it everywhere on the planet, on all the continents. Well, you know, actually not on all the continents. We're not in Antarctica yet, but you know, I know you, Mac. I bet you've got a plan up your sleeve.
Well, Katie, I don't know. I'm sure we could consider a center to manage, let's say, payment for environmental services, like keeping water trapped in the polar ice caps to protect Miami and the Maldives from rising sea levels. We could even tap our growing family of experts and partners and researchers, policymakers, and staff to estimate the value of that land that is protected and help us capture some of the value to, fund the center.
Good idea. And I'm sure that some of our excellent partners, you know, we work with the World Bank and the United Nations and OECD, or some of our premier national and international universities around the world would love to travel to frigid Antarctica to work with us.
I'll be there waiting for them. And together, with all of our partners, our networks, and the people that work directly with us and indirectly with us, collectively, we're the largest and most influential land policy organization in the world.
We are. And you know, for the last 75 years, we have not been content to sit still, and we are not going to sit still for the next 75. We've been a force for good, a force for reform, and a force for justice. And during this year of 75th anniversary programming, all of you will have many opportunities to engage with us, to learn with us, to do more, to engage in your own communities, to live the golden rule, to share and be kind to each other.
And we'd like to share with you today a short film that we produced to expose to you the original idea that sparked the founding of the Lincoln Institute, and to show you where we came from and where we've gone. And later, we'll talk about how the work will continue to evolve in the next 25 years and beyond. And with the help of all of you, of course, we're going to make a big difference in the world. But for now, let's watch.
Enjoy the film.
No matter where you live, what you do, who you are, all of us are reliant on land. And how we use our land, the decisions we make, bind us together, determine the condition of our planet and the quality of our lives. So let's look at the root of these decisions, at the seed of an idea that inspired the path forward, planted 3 generations ago, and still growing strong. It all began in Cleveland, Ohio, at the dawn of the 20th century. Cleveland was the Silicon Valley of its day, a center of technology and innovation. Here, working in the same era as Edison, Westinghouse, and Tesla, John Cromwell Lincoln founded Lincoln Electric with $200 in savings. He began by designing components for an electrified streetcar system and pioneered the use of electricity in welding, which would revolutionize construction and manufacturing practices worldwide. From an early age, John showed a knack for inventing things and possessed a strong moral sense of justice. It wasn't long before his restless mind moved beyond electricity. John Lincoln grew up during the Gilded Age, a time of extreme inequality when the richest 4,000 families possessed more wealth than the rest of America put together. One source of this wealth was the increasing value of land because of development. When he was 23, John attended a lecture by one of the leading thinkers of the time, economist Henry George. George argued that by taxing land according to its value, the benefits of growth would be shared more equally by all people. And since public investment in the railroad and other utilities drove surrounding land values up, it was only fair that the public, not wealthy land speculators, should capture this financial gain. George's vision made a huge impact on John Lincoln, speaking to the sense of fairness instilled in him by his faith and family. Years later, John left his still-growing company in the able hands of his brother and partner James and moved his family to Arizona, where he continued a life of innovation and philanthropy. But as the country continued to grapple with issues of social inequality, Henry George's idea remained firmly fixed in John's mind. In 1946, he established the Lincoln Foundation to, in his own words,
seek through the dissemination of proven truth to change the standards of economic education and of public opinion, and thus contribute to a more just and productive life for free men and women.
75 years later, that foundational idea continues to guide an organization focused on the use, taxation, and stewardship of land. And today, John Lincoln's vision has given rise to the modern policy approach called land value capture, which is put into practice around the world.
We are in the historic Five Points neighborhood in Denver, Colorado. This neighborhood in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s was called the Harlem of the West, where jazz greats would play because they couldn't stay downtown in white establishments. Since 2010, we've seen incredible gentrification happening. The land prices here have dramatically escalated.
As the Five Points neighborhood grappled with this change, Albus Brooks' colleague Brad Buchanan attended the annual Big City Planning Directors Institute, hosted by the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy.
It's just open sharing, best practices, epic failures, absolutely the most valuable learning and sharing for me all year round. I remember Martim from Brazil talking about the value capture approaches there, and that was the spark. And I remember running out at lunch and picking up the cell phone and calling Albus Brooks, the city councilman, and saying, Albus, our answer is in this.
In Belo Horizonte, Brazil, Maria Caldas waged a hard-won campaign to implement a new master plan for the city, with value capture at its core.
Belo Horizonte é muito singular. É uma cidade que não tem para onde expandir seu território, então ela só pode adensar. Toda construção acima do coeficiente 1 irá comprar da sociedade esse direito. Ele pode ser aplicado para melhorar espaços públicos em determinados locais da cidade, ou ele irá para um fundo municipal de habitação.
In one neighborhood, the private sector created a shopping plaza to offer street vendors a centralized location. It was built in exchange for high-rise construction opportunities elsewhere in the city. The shopping mall strengthened the community and demonstrated the benefit of strong public-private collaboration.
Foi com o Lincoln que eu me aproximei dos conceitos, né, de captura de mais-valia, e o Lincoln foi um parceiro inestimável.
Back in Denver, inspired by the Lincoln Institute and Belo Horizonte, Brad and Albus saw an opportunity when their city decided to build a new commuter rail complex in the Five Points neighborhood.
We sat community, architects, developers, private sector at the table together to figure out what they wanted in their community, and they came up with, okay, we'll let you go up higher if we get some community benefit, which Brad calls value capture, right?
But the truth is, the reason this development is happening is because of the public investment that happened. This has those developers, those investors who are going to make the returns, gets them to the table with their money to help solve those problems that the neighbors care about.
It's just incredible to feel and see that synergy. And I just think that's a special bond and relationship that has come out of all of this cool, sexy city building that we're able to do.
Fostering environments where people share ideas about land policy became a primary focus of the Lincoln Foundation. And it was John's son, David, who began funding land policy programs at schools in Claremont, California, Hartford, Connecticut, and Taipei. More overseas initiatives would follow in Latin America, mainland China, Eastern Europe, and Africa, demonstrating that the compelling idea of Henry George was applicable around the world. Like his father, David's work was anchored in fairness and the idea that building respect between cultures and faiths was invaluable.
A better understanding of public finance, land economics, and taxation would ensure that more people have the same opportunities, whatever their lot in life.
In 1974, David created a freestanding organization to disseminate research, not just for academia, but for everyday decision makers and the general public, the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. The new institute became known as a convener, bringing practitioners of all stripes to Lincoln House in Cambridge, Massachusetts. From lawyers and tax judges to journalists and activists, all to share best practices and new ideas. In the 1970s and 80s, in the Dudley Street neighborhood of Boston, the community faced an all-too-common challenge: white flight to the suburbs.
People were leaving, small shop owners were leaving. And so as they left, the real estate value came down. With a decrease in value, many people found themselves underwater. At the same time, we started hearing about the city working with developers to think about development in our neighborhood, but nobody had consulted us. And so people were scared. We were both fighting for a cleaner, healthier neighborhood, while at the same time worried that somebody was going to come in, build in our neighborhood, and push us out. We established the Community Land Trust in 1988 to help the community take control and own, in fact, the land that it had helped to protect.
One of the main goals of the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative's Land Trust was to create perpetual affordable housing.
We allow for the homeowner to buy the improvements on the land, but not the land. They lease the land. And in the lease agreement, there is also a formula that dictates the resale value of that home. The Lincoln Institute of Land Policy was a real partner in supporting our community land trust. Lincoln allowed us to both conduct surveys and research to better understand some of the impact of our land trust, and then to think about how we could maximize the land trust. Today we own about 36 acres of land that brings affordable housing, parks, playgrounds, open space, and farming into our neighborhood.
Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative, they are like the community land trust held on high for what can be accomplished. Nashville has this small town kind of feel and this tremendously huge heart. And now we are actually struggling with the fact that we're having the big city pressures.
When you start providing more capital into the city and tax advantages to some of the corporations, those same homes at one time that were affordable, now are no longer affordable. And so we partnered with Grounded Solutions to really help us to operationalize the Community Land Trust.
Grounded Solutions evolved from a national network of community land trusts established by Lincoln Institute to help these CLTs collaborate with each other and with their cities.
It really does need to be a partnership with the city. So Lincoln Institute put out the City CLT Partnership policy brief, and we've kind of been living by that ever since.
The city gave us 15 scattered sites around the city for us to develop the Community Land Trust properties. Housing is way more than just living there. It's about wealth creation. They use the equity to start businesses. They use the equity to send their kids to college. They use the equity to reinvest for retirement. Look at all of that, what a house is able to do. That's what this is all about for me, is how do we make a difference out there?
Katie Lincoln, David's daughter, has continued the work of broadening and strengthening the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy's partnerships at home and abroad, including a new research center in partnership with Peking University. She has also focused on making land policy information even more accessible, with the launch of a PBS documentary trilogy, interactive websites, online and print magazines, and podcasts.
Recognizes how government actions like this.
And as the impacts of climate change have begun affecting the lives of people around the world, Katie has focused the Lincoln Institute's resources on the issue of sustainability. As a resident of the desert Southwest, it became clear to Katie that land policy could also be leveraged to address one of climate change's most serious impacts: access to water.
We know that today's decisions about land are also decisions about water. The need to be aware of and act upon this interdependence is urgent.
And so in 2017, Katie established the Babbitt Center for Land and Water Policy, named after former Arizona Governor Bruce Babbitt. The center strengthened the Lincoln Institute's presence in the western U.S. and helps planners within the Colorado River Basin tackle water management issues in their communities, with the aim of expanding to help manage major water systems around the world. In Jefferson County, Colorado, planners were increasingly aware that something needed to change as new development stressed an already fragile environment.
With Colorado and Jefferson County being a popular destination, there can be some challenges related to providing infrastructure and resources, including a water supply.
Whether it's residential development, commercial, agricultural, industrial uses, water is a constant topic in our conversations.
So to better respond to the increasing demand on its resources, Jefferson County sent a delegation to the Babbitt Center's Growing Water Smart workshop.
One of the largest takeaways we had was to expand our water resources bubble a bit and making sure we had developed relationships with all the water providers in the county.
Jefferson County's water supply and context is so unique. We have public water providers, we have commercial areas that are entirely served by wells, so it really becomes complicated. Based on the lessons learned from the Growing Water Smart workshop and through outreach with the community, we really looked for a variety of ways to address water conservation and sustainability. We're not only evaluating the water availability right now for a proposed development, we're evaluating how that development might affect water availability in the future, not only here, but also downriver in the Colorado River Basin and for generations to come.
That view towards the future and that spirit of collaboration are hallmarks of the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. 75 years after John Lincoln planted that seed, the Lincoln Institute continues to grow and evolve, advocating for land policy that creates climate-resilient communities, fairer tax systems, healthier people, and a more sustainable planet. It's a testament to Lincoln's global community that we can all work towards a better world, helping to nurture the life of an idea.
Welcome back. I sure hope you enjoyed our film. We really wanted to celebrate the origins of the Lincoln Institute and show the past through the lives of people today, people who have been affected by it, who personify our values and ideals.
And Katie, one of those people was Henry George, and another was your dad. And your dad always reminded us that Henry George's work wasn't about the land tax, it was about poverty, eradicating it. The land tax was just a means to that end. Poverty wasn't going away on its own, even though the Industrial Revolution was generating incredible wealth.
Right.
The land tax was a way to redistribute the benefits of economic growth, and we're continuing that theme. Land policy provides ways to address pressing global challenges that many people feel are unassailable. So, Katie, you want to address climate change?
Well, you start with land policy.
By protecting and managing forests and grasslands, we can sequester carbon, reducing harmful effects of greenhouse gases. Katie, you want revenue for cities to deliver water and sanitation to their residents?
You start with land policy.
Land-based revenues, like the property tax, are the bulwark of local budgets, giving cities the resources they need to provide a better quality of life for residents. And that's the big idea. Even though it's right under our feet, land is overlooked as a solution to social, economic, and environmental challenges. And just like Henry George, we're finding the answers in land.
Yes, we are. And you know, Mac, when we started this project, this film project, there were dozens of people and partners, wonderful projects that we looked at, so many that we could have had a mini series. There are several more, however, that you and I would like to share with our audience today, several more inspirational ideas and projects that we've done over the years that we'd like to share tonight.
And you know, Katie, one role that the Institute has consistently played over time is as a platform to take good ideas and turn them into great ones. And we know a good idea when we see it.
Yes, we do.
So back in the 1980s, a fellow named Kingsbury Brown came to us with an idea for scaling up land conservation.
Yes, he did. He wanted to find a way to conserve private land, to complement the programs that were already in place to conserve public and state trust lands. So he convened a set of folks who were land trust people. And he convened them at Lincoln because he knew that we were a place where you could convene people, obviously. And they built a network called the Land Trust Alliance, which is still in existence today.
And they used new tax and land policy tools to take their work to scale. Today, the Land Trust Alliance is the voice of more than 1,000 conservation land trusts that protect more than 57 million acres of private land in the United States. 57 million acres is the size of the land area of Minnesota.
That's no small feat. And we were not content to sit still with that. In 2015, we formed the International Land Conservation Network, which is now active and a global movement on 6 continents. And they have a very powerful goal, 30 by 30 and 50 by 50. In other words, to conserve 30% of the globe's land and water resources by 2030 and 50% of those resources by 2050. Quite audacious.
But we're not afraid of audacious goals, Katie, as you know.
Yes.
And I know you remember another guy with an audacious goal, a crazy economist from Wellesley named Chip Case.
Chip.
And Chip Case wanted to solve the property assessment problem for tax systems. And he wanted to automate property appraisal methods with accessible tools that everybody could use. So with Chip's help, we organized a bunch of computer nerds that produced some of the first computer-assisted mass appraisal systems. And today, we've trained assessors all over the world to use these systems to estimate property tax values. Now, we're pushing new boundaries in land valuation using artificial intelligence to understand the price dynamics of land markets, something that has never been done before.
Never. And you know, long ago, we were known as the Little Red Schoolhouse, and we hired Dennis Robinson as our first instructional designer. He created land policy tools and taught them to small gatherings on Trowbridge Street.
But working just out of a small red schoolhouse in Cambridge wasn't enough. We took that practice on the road, providing training and technical assistance to local practitioners across the world. We started with Martin Smolka and his Dirty Dozen instructor network, and they designed and taught professional development courses in Latin America. And lately was Ji Lu in the staff at the Peking Lincoln Center, training trainers by the hundreds in China. Or Joan Youngman, Armando Carbonell, and Jenna D'Angelo offering professional certificate programs in the United States and Europe for appraisers, planners, and other public officials. Big ambitious goals.
And we're going to build on that again, Mac, by creating advanced degrees in sustainability, public administration, and land policy with our partners, Claremont Lincoln University here in the United States, UNED in Paris, and the University of Pretoria in South Africa.
And with those new distance learning technologies, we'll be able to train thousands of public servants in cities, towns, and villages in the United States, Latin America, Asia, Europe, and Africa. It'll be game-changing.
Game-changing, indeed. You know, as Chief Investment Officer, I work with a variety of partners across the board. So many wonderful investment managers who work with me to make sure that we have the funds. Very often I can marry the mission of our organization with the financial side of the house. And there's a couple examples I want to share tonight with the folks who are watching. So Nick Dilks and his team at Ecosystem Investment Partners out of Baltimore, they work to restore wetlands and streams with local communities using local labor and local resources. They restore these wetlands and streams into perpetuity. They create mitigation banks and they sell these credits then to others for development in those wetlands, in these watersheds. It's a win-win-win for those economies, for those people, and for that land.
I remember when we visited their coastal restoration project outside of New Orleans. They restored thousands of acres of grasslands that are the first line of defense for the city against storm surges. What had become open waters because of erosion and rising sea levels were transformed into thriving habitats for shorebirds and even a few alligators. But they also recovered land to mitigate the impact of widening roads through the bayous through the rest of Louisiana. Really incredible work.
Yeah, my dad got a kick out of seeing those alligators. You might remember that. But you'll also remember that we went to South Africa to visit with Rial Franzen at the ATI, the African Tax Institute at the University of Pretoria. And we spent the afternoon with Rob Westerlo and his team at the International Housing Solutions. They're doing green development for underserved housing, underserved communities in South Africa. And in COVID times, they're considering pivoting and using empty retail and commercial in central business districts for underserved housing. Now think about it. These underserved communities can live closer to work using land that might be vacant, and guess what? All better. Win-win-win for the underserved communities and for the economies. Again, great use of funds and resources.
Yeah, Katie, I remember we visited a couple of their sites outside of Johannesburg. Really beautiful, modest homes that they could offer to people living without public services in nearby slums. But the transformation of that central business district was really, really impressive because they helped households move back into the city and reduce the spatial segregation that is a legacy of decades of apartheid. So it was something to see.
Yeah, it was. And again, it gets back to the people, Mac. These are great things for people by great people, which is what we are all about. And the return from these two projects that we talked about enables us to continue to do our great global work.
And I'm really glad you keep getting great returns on our endowment, Katie, because it puts the gas in our tank to do our work. But you know, there's a common thread here that runs through all the examples we've given, and that these are great ideas that started small, but ended up changing the lives of people in places all over the world. And what they needed was someone who saw their potential and provided access to resources, human, financial, intellectual, and a lot of time to bring them to fruition.
You know, all great programs we've talked about and great ideas, but all great ideas need people to give them life. You know, Henry George had a great idea. We've heard about that. And my grandfather, John Lincoln, believed in that idea. So everyone tonight watching, you are the life of this idea. We have many great ideas, don't we, Mac? Many great ideas.
Wow. We have a lot of good ideas in here. Hey, you know what? I have an idea too.
Oh, good.
It might have something to do with Antarctica.
Oh, of course
How
it does.
about you, Katie?
There are a lot of great ideas. You know, we could go through these now and contemplate the future of land policy globally, or we could just have another fun moment and watch a show.
Oh, I think we better watch a show.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
It's your birthday!
You're 75 years old? I cannot believe it.
Me either. You don't look a day over 70.
I'll have what Lincoln's having. So much has happened in the last 75 years.
This is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands.
Moving into the 1950s, change is on the horizon.
The polio vaccine was invented and administered in schools via sugar cube.
Over half the homes in America had a television. Dick Clark appears as the host of American Bandstand, and Elvis Presley performs on The Ed Sullivan Show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bless my soul, what's wrong with me? I'm in love. I'm all shook up.
All shook up is right.
In 1955, Rosa Parks is arrested in Alabama after she refuses to give up her bus seat to a white passenger, thus sparking the civil rights movement.
Civil rights are a land policy issue. Discrimination in zoning and property deeds causes segregated communities.
Well, that's definitely not cool, sexy city building.
Oh, now look who's quoting the soon-to-be critically acclaimed Lincoln Institute film Life of an Idea.
Maybe. R-E-S-P-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-C-T, take care, TCP.
To the 60s, what a decade.
Yeah, the Cuban Missile Crisis was a tense moment for the world, but ultimately brought common ground between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his iconic I Have a Dream speech at the March on Washington in 1963, and at the end of the decade, we landed on the moon.
Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right to do. Welcome to the 70s. Earth Day, ERA, and technology. 1974, the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy was established in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Lincoln House is located just steps away from Harvard.
And speaking of Harvard and wicked smart people, just the following year, Bill Gates and Paul Allen created Microsoft. The computers are coming!
The internet is coming! People, community, and equality are still the priority in 1988 when the Lincoln Institute develops the Community Land Trust Network.
November 9th, 1989. A spokesman for East Berlin's Communist Party says starting at midnight, citizens of East Germany are free to cross the country's borders. Almost immediately, Berliners start slamming the wall with axes and sledgehammers.
By nightfall, the celebration turns into what one observer calls the greatest street party in the history of the world. And the city is reunited.
A dancing in the streets. In the spirit of global community, let's celebrate some global firsts, shall we?
The year 1981, Sandra Day O'Connor gained international recognition as the first woman to serve as a U.S. Supreme Court justice.
In 1994, Nelson Mandela became the president of South Africa after being elected in the country's first multiracial election.
Barack Obama is sworn in as the first African-American President of the United States in 2009. So many firsts.
And most recently, of course, Kamala Harris, the first woman, the first Black American, and the first South Asian American to be elected Vice President of these United States. Simply the best. You're better than all the rest.
And that brings us to 2021, the 75th anniversary of the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. Has impacted and supported communities around the world. Happy birthday, Lincoln Institute.
Happy anniversary, Lincoln.
Oh, happy birthday, happy anniversary, and cheers to 75 more years.
I'm so excited.
Oh, yeah.
I just can't hide it.
No.
I'm about to lose control, and I think I like it. Yeah. I'm so excited.
Ooh, wee.
I just can't
Wow. What a fun way to think about 75 years at the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy.
Well, it's been a great run, combining the good ideas and foresight of Lincoln's founders with the hard work of thousands of you, our partners, our networks, our staff, our board. Earlier today, Katie asked you all to share a favorite memory. Katie, what are you seeing on social media?
Well, you know, Mac, I have something. I have something from Carolyn Rue in Summerfield, Florida. My fondest and proudest memory is the dedication and opening of Lincoln House in Cambridge in 1991. This beautiful building paid a heartfelt tribute to our founders and demonstrated their foresight for the future of Lincoln Institute.
As you know, we're renovating Lincoln House now, and it's going to be Lincoln House 2.0 by the end of this year, so it'll be something to look forward to. Well,
Do you have one?
Yes, I do. I see something here from Ji Lu in Beijing. He said, during a dinner for the 2019 Training the Trainers course in Hangzhou, we had an impromptu talent show complete with break dancers.
that would be Xi.
Yeah, we'll have to ask Ji Lu to recount that at our next board meeting.
Yeah, I think so. I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another one here from Dick Perkins in Stowe, Massachusetts. I recall helping with the move to Brattle Street, again, a reference to our Brattle Street home, solidifying Lincoln's presence in the Cambridge community. He recalls studying and then teaching courses in creative development techniques. He recalls traveling to China's mainland, beginning the process of opening that vast country to LILP thinking, winter meetings in Arizona, a different slice of America for this New England boy.
Wow. Hey, you know, this is like the idea box. We could spend a lot of time looking through these. Do we have time for one more?
I know, yeah, one more, I think. Why not?
Well, this is from Giovanni Perez in Buenos Aires.
Oh.
He says, my favorite memory was the specialization course in Panama back in 2007. I learned a lot, made dear friends, and most importantly, I met the love of my life.
Oh.
And we are both still working with the Institute. A true love story at the Lincoln Institute. It's heartwarming.
I love a love story at the Lincoln Institute. That's great. You know, this is going to be a fun year with all of these fond memories, and with this idea box, it's going to be a greatly fun year.
Boy, you know, it's been something working together with everybody for the last 75 years to produce an incredible body of work, and I expect we'll have the same great experience in the future. But we asked our staff, the heart and soul of the Lincoln Institute, to tell us what we could be doing at our 100-year anniversary 25 years from now. And we asked them to express this in just 6 words. So let's see what they had to say.
Hey, I'm Reese Robertson. I'm currently in the mountains in Colorado.
I'm Kate Ostermiller in South Boston, Massachusetts.
Hola, mi nombre es Diego Lomeli. Soy originalmente de Mérida, Venezuela, pero vivo en Boston, Massachusetts.
My name is Shenmin Liu. I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
What could the staff of the Lincoln Institute be doing in 25 years at its 100th anniversary?
In 25 years, Lincoln will be supporting prosperity through research and mapping.
Create great cities. Equitable, vibrant, affordable.
Expandiendo nuestro impacto hacia nuevos horizontes.
Mapping the data, empowering decision making.
In 25 years, we'll be working on land policy on the moon.
Idris Elba does Henry George biopic.
Cidades inclusivas, evitando assentamentos informais.
A holodeck classroom at Lincoln House.
Working toward a more resilient planet.
Liderando cambios durante 100 años más.
Mega regions multiply, seeking sustainability, Lincoln leads.
Sustainably manage land and water globally.
Better land policy, better living quality. 扬善策，益世人.
Helping people and places through planning.
Building and creating a better future.
Renewably powered, sustainably financed climate resilience.
Kujali masilahi ya watu, ardhi na wanyamapori. Thank you.
Lincoln leads in reforming state-local government.
Getting small. Neighborhood storefront resource centers.
Creating equitable, environmentally conscious neighborhoods together.
关心土地，关注城市。
thriving communities, climate maintenance, and better policies.
Planning, acting, learning, transforming our communities.
Respirando aire puro donde abundan oportunidades.
Still in Akron, celebrating our successes.
Enfoque en equidad y talento diverso.
Still making impact across the globe.
Facilitating land back to Indigenous peoples.
Slaying racial and economic inequities.
East, west, north, south. Lincoln's there.
In 25 years, the Lincoln Institute will be advancing knowledge for an equitable future. Yay!
Inspiring strong leaders and future generations.
Better solutions for the next generation.
Dependability, reliability, no poverty, peace, and congratulations.
Well, Katie, that was really touching. And I think it's significant that more than one person chose equitable or equity as part of their response. I often equate equity with fairness, and it applies across the board. Legal, the equal protection under the law for all groups. Spatial, equal access to opportunity. And temporal, sharing burdens equally across generations. And I think that fairness is in the DNA of the Institute. Although I didn't know him, I get a strong sense from his writings that your grandfather was driven by a similar commitment to fairness.
You know, I would agree. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't have the honor of knowing my grandfather either, but I could imagine that his fairness could have been his middle name. But you know, when we asked this question of the team, I thought differently about these 6 words. I imagined what I would like the world to describe the Lincoln Institute as in 25 years hence. So my 6 words are descriptors for the Lincoln Institute, and my 6 words are community, global, treasured, significant, ethical, and sustainable. And I'll focus on 2 just briefly. I focus on community because I still want in 25 years and in 50 and in 75 for us to be a community, a strong community of people who work together, who believe together, who find wonderful ideas and push them forward across the world to make things better, a better place for all people. And because I am my father's daughter, I think of ethical, that we have to do those things in the right way and in the best way. So of my 6, I think community and ethical as the 2 that I think are the shining stars of my 6 for the year in 25 years, in the year 2046, when we will gather again to celebrate.
And I'm sure your father would have been proud of your selection, Katie, because community and ethical were really central to his heart and soul as well. So my 6 words are a little more process-based and personal, but I think they apply to everyone who works for or with the Lincoln Institute. Finding meaning while making a difference. It's been an enormous privilege for me to lead this organization for the last 7 years. It has offered me a unique opportunity to make a difference and to see the impact of our work firsthand. So many things that matter for both people and the planet. 25, 50, or even 100 years from now, the Institute will continue to offer similar meaningful opportunities to our employees and to you, the whole Lincoln Institute family, hopefully, including a Center on Ecosystem Services in Antarctica. I'll welcome you there. So we want to thank everyone for joining us to celebrate 75 years of working together. This won't be our last opportunity to celebrate together, and we've got a year's worth of fun and exciting activities planned. But given the challenges of the pandemic, planning is a little uncertain. So please keep an eye on our website for updates on future events. But just to whet your appetite, I'll tell you that events will include a traveling exhibition, headliners like Otis Moss III and CEOs from Fortune 500 companies, workshops and webinars, and it will be fun and inspiring. But now I think Katie would like to bring us home with a toast.
Well, thank you. And yes, I do need this for our toast. So first of all, I too would like to thank you all from around the globe for joining us. And I suppose a slight correction I would like to make for those of you at UNED in Madrid, not in Paris. My apologies. I didn't mean to move your university up to Paris, but congratulations on your home in Madrid. But to all of you around the globe who have worked with us and continue to work with us, thank you for joining us this evening. To my partner in leadership, Mac, thank you so much for 7 years, and here's to another 7 or 14, however much longer you will wish to lead with me. I also want to say I am honored to continue to be chair of this organization, and honored that my folks around the table continue to provide me with that honor. But my toast is to all of you, to my team members, to my board, to the staff, to the fellows, researchers, scholars around the world, and also to my partners around the world. I'd also like to tip my hat to the spouses and partners of all of the people who work with us, because without your support, our spouses, partners, we couldn't do this good work. So cheers to all of you, and here's to 75 years past and 75 years yet to come. Cheers.
Hear, hear. Cheers.